All right. Today we are going to move out of Job chapter 2 finally, and we're going to move into really the meat of the book, right? So remember, Job is written as poetry, right? It's an epic poem. So we have kind of a prelude, we have the story at the beginning, and then most of this poem, most of this book of poetry is a conversation between Job and his three friends, which we'll get into today. And then there's kind of an end cap as well on this book. That's where God shows up and talks to Job. All right, but this middle part is quite long. It's about 30 chapters long. And so we really see Job kind of speak out all of his feelings, all of his thoughts. So at the end of Job chapter 2, Job's three friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, show up. And I think that they really are good friends, because the first thing they do is they just sit down with Job and they mourn with him. They mourn his loss. They just kind of try and comfort him, and they don't say anything really to him for 7 days. Okay, that's pretty patient. And so that tells me that these guys aren't out to hurt Job necessarily. They're just doing what they know how to do. Now we'll see, they do hurt Job with their words. They get really, really harsh, actually. And I think that God has these three friends and their words in this book because really this is how Christians often respond to tough things in the world. When we see suffering or when we see pain, Christians historically are very quick to point a finger and say, oh, God is judging that sin. God is judging those people. And Job shows us that that's not the way to respond. Because for Job, it's not the case. Remember, he is blameless and upright. Okay? So after those 7 days, the friends begin their speeches. And Eliphaz, who we'll get into today, he's like the kindest and the most like teachery. He's very educational of the three. Bildad is a little harsher and he points the finger a little harder, and Zophar is basically just attacking Job verbally right from the beginning. And then every time that one of the friends speaks, then Job speaks. So Job kicks this thing off and he basically tells his friends, I don't know what's happening here. It doesn't seem like God is just. I wish I had never been born. I have no hope left in life. And then Eliphaz responds, okay? Now, I want you to make sure and read chapter 4. Chapter 4 is where Eliphaz begins speaking. He believes that you get what you deserve. He believes that if you do good, good things happen to you. And if you do bad, then bad things happen to you. There's a term for that. It's called retribution theology, okay? And that's something that's a vocab word I want you to remember. If you see here in chapter 4, which I do want you to read, let's look at verse 7. Remember, who that was innocent ever perished, or were the upright cut off? As I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. By the breath of God they perish, and by the blast of his anger they are consumed. Basically, Eliphaz is saying, if you deserve judgment, God will send you judgment, and if you don't, he won't. Look at it. He said, who that was innocent ever perished? That's pretty extreme to believe that, but that's what Eliphaz believes. And then we get this really interesting thing that starts happening in verse 12. Eliphaz is claiming to have this knowledge about God because a spirit has visited him in the night, freaked him out, talked to him about Job, and then left. Who do you think that could be? Right. Okay. Crazy thing starts happening here in verse 12. Let me read this to you. Now a word was brought to me stealthily. My ear received the whisper of it. Amid thoughts from visions of the night when deep sleep falls on men, dread came upon me, and trembling which made all my bones shake. A spirit glided past my face. The hair of my flesh stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes. There was silence. Then I heard a voice. Can mortal man be in the right before God? And the spirit goes on to explain to Eliphaz that God does not see any morality in men. That when God looks at man, he sees nothing good. He only sees evil. And so Eliphaz is saying, that's why this has happened to you, Job. You are full of evil, and now you're receiving the results of that evil in all of this disaster. Whoa. You have to keep in mind, Eliphaz is wrong. God, in chapter 1, called Job blameless and upright. It's Eliphaz and the night spirit that are trying to convince Job that what he's receiving right now is a result of his sin. Now, if you haven't guessed it yet, I know who the night spirit is. It's Satan. Okay? He's doing the same thing that he did to Eve. He's doing the same thing that he was trying to do to God earlier about Job. He's trying to convince Job that he is something that God says he's not. All right? So Job hears this from Eliphaz, and he defends himself. He's like, no, I haven't done anything wrong. I promise I've done everything right, which sets Bildad off. I almost called him Bilbo. Old Bilbo Baggins. No, Bildad. Okay? So big terms here. Retribution theology. I want you to remember that. Also, I want you to know the word nihilism. All right? Eliphaz, really from the night spirit, is going to suggest that morality doesn't exist, at least good morality doesn't exist in humans. And that's a very nihilistic way of thinking. Nihilism is just, it's a philosophy that basically says, like, certainties don't exist. There is no good, there is no evil, life has no moral purpose, you just kind of are, okay? Friedrich Nietzsche is the guy. He didn't come up with it, but he kind of made that idea popular. I don't know if you'd recognize that name. Famous philosopher. For your assignment today, I want you to use the tool of your choice to kind of show me what God does think about people. All right. Now, obviously, not 100% of God's thoughts about humans are positive. You know, we have sin, he hates it. But I do want you to show kind of a balanced, true depiction of what God thinks about people. And I would like this to be in picture form as much as possible. So if you just want to like get some colored pencils out and do it on paper, that's fine. If you'd rather, use clip art and make a PowerPoint slide or something like that, that's also okay. But basically, I want you to turn in like a single form, like a single page in some way, either a photo of a page that you did with your hands or something from the computer. I just want you to show me, what does God think of people? So I just want the mind of God in the center, and then everything that he might think about people surrounding it, all right? Furthermore, I want you to show me evidence of why you think that's what God thinks of people, all right? So you can, if you were to say that God, thinks that people are really friendly, all right? I want you to, below that picture or below that statement, refer to something, okay? You can refer to another Bible story, you can refer to an event in your life, you can refer to something that you've read, but I want this to not just be a big list of your opinions. I want it to be a list of opinions that you have formed because of something that you have learned in the past, all right? I'll explain that again in the text below, so good luck.